I confess I enjoyed hearing that. It was like I jumped my own bowl of chili on his head. In countless ways, the civil rights movement furthered the fulfillment of American democracy, the ideals the Founding Fathers knew they hadn't achieved: universal freedom, equality, and justice. And you have here so many students from other countries. Most people don't realize, or haven't realized, the global implications to what the movement did. American diplomats saw the Cold War as one we had to fight everywhere. How could they win allies in largely non-white continents of Asia and Africa if our highest court endorsed segregation? In a book entitled The Cold War and the Color Line, it was put this way: American diplomats were relieved that Jim Crow legal sanctions had disappeared. That had some direct effect on many that we may not realize. Seeing the promise of America inspired an African leader from Kenya named Tom Mboya. He started a scholarship program to send rising stars to the United States. One of those stars was a young politician named Barack Obama Sr. You know the story. He came here and married, and his influence and impact we see today. It often pains me to hear people criticize the battles we fought and the movement that it helped spawn. They said the impact was minimal. They said the tactics that shaped it, marching and protesting, are relics of the past. I think many times my dad died when I was 12. Able to come back and see what's happened, he would be awed, as I was at this dinner tonight. When he died, only 13% of African Americans had graduated from high school. Now the number is over 80. He wouldn't think that's minimal. In his day, only 2% had graduated from college. Now the number's over 20%, obviously including his children and his grandchildren. He wouldn't think that was minimal. Today, as I walked through the halls, I saw the job fair. In our community, we're spending almost $1 trillion in the U.S. economy, have black CEOs of American Fortune 500 corporations, close to 30% of the African-American families now, incomes over $100,000. The black middle class is triple what it was a generation back. Minimal? I don't think so. In his day, there was only one African-American in Congress, no black mayors. Now there are over 40 members of Congress and more than 9,000 African-American officials elected. Not enough, but minimal. My father would not think so. My father and mother and grandparents wouldn't think it was minimal to see that headline on January 20th, 2008, reading, "Obama takes charge." I have to admit, I never imagined that on January 20th, 2009, I would see a man of color standing outside the Capitol in front of 1 million others, as I and many of you were freezing to death. But to hear this man make history by starting out with 4 words, "I, Barack Hussein Obama, do take this oath." People were wearing buttons saying, "Yes, we did." And I was there too, humbled, inspired, amazed that I was in a seat of honor with 4 of my high school classmates because of something we had done over a half a century ago. I thought about my parents on that day, thought about them a lot, because they would have been on that mall on the day this country inaugurated its first African-American president. They would have celebrated, but they wouldn't ignore what's left to do. Because even as Barack Obama was taking that oath, school kids watching on TV in schools as segregated today as they were in the time of Dr. King's death in 1968. And even as he began to speak, high school kids listening, African-American youngsters have SAT scores that are significantly behind their counterparts, white, Asians, and Hispanics. But do these details demonstrate that the Civil Rights Revolution failed? I think absolutely not. because like the work of the Declaration of Independence, the American Revolution, and the Constitution, the event we experienced was a step on the ladder. What we see today only makes moving to the next step more urgent. Now, how do we level this playing field? I think here is an excellent example. We have to move ahead on economic development. It makes a great difference what government does and who we send to run it. Not just the White House, but the judges and other federal appointments who will be just, making sure people have good health care, a tax system that's fair. We need to move ahead through getting involved in politics. And we need something else. We need great schools and great students. We need many of you in this room to be the ambassadors to bring somebody else along. You know that we live in a multicultural world. Many of you, 20 years from now, the economic powerhouses will be India and China. The internet links all economies. In fact, we are finding out that the internet links a lot of things. That means African Americans who want a bright future have to be as comfortable with a mouse as our generation was with a pencil. Education, I believe, is still the key to opportunity. So I ask all of you, please don't just come away from this day understanding the past better. Come away resolved to make the future better, because the challenges ahead must be solved by you. And the challenges ahead aren't limited to race. You obviously face a much more complex world than the one I faced in 1957. We had never even heard of global warming, but we see the ice caps melting and holes in the ozone, and we cannot allow it. We never heard of the HIV virus, but millions around the world die of it still, and we have to fight it. And here's what might be the most complex issue of all. All the debate going on about immigration these days doesn't change what the Census Bureau predicted, that by the time most of you in this room will be in your mid-50s, the United States will be half non-white. That's right. To look like America, Carnegie Mellon's class of 2050 will be at least half Latino, African American, and Asian. Black, brown, yellow, white, we share these challenges that lie ahead, and we must share the job of finding solutions. Can this country, with its history so divided by race and ethnicity, finally work as a team? And that's why I'm excited about being here. Yes, this is a school that emphasizes excellence and emphasizing inclusion. And you have a school that doesn't shrink, hopefully, from diversity, but as this event and others, you embrace it. How do I know that this future is going to be better for each of us? It's a belief that I have. You know that there were times when I didn't believe people could work things out. I'll tell you the story, continuation of my sister. She gave me some evidence. You remember me talking about my mother and that diploma. My sister was still angry about the injustice done to her. We all were. But none of us had ever tried to do anything about it. And for a long time, we thought the school would just ignore us. And last 2 months ago, my sister tried. She wrote the University of Arkansas, told them my mother's story. She wasn't ignored. We got a letter back from the chancellor, David Gerhardt. He asked us for an opportunity to show the University of Arkansas is a very different institution today than it was in 1951. He asked us what we thought would be a fitting tribute. He said, considering that the family had waited 60 years for this moment, I want to be certain that we do it right. We worked it out, and so very soon, the month of May, my sister, my brother, and I will be on the Razorback campus, this time as welcome guests, while they honor my mother's achievements. And let me reassure you, it doesn't always have to take 60 years. 5 decades ago, a young president named Kennedy got up outside the Capitol on a cold, snowy day looked over the mall, past the Washington Monument, towards the Lincoln Memorial, and he preached a message of hope. The torch, he said, has been passed to a new generation. And then 2 years later, a hot, sweltering day in August at the Lincoln Memorial, looking out towards the Capitol, another person told us about his dream. The two of them died too young, but their dreams live on. Now it's your turn to carry on the dreams they shared. Yes, at home and around the world. There are those who say you can't succeed. I believe you don't listen to them. They are the voices of despair. You have to go forward. There are times you think you're all alone. Listen to the people who march with you and you go forward. And when there's defeat, and if you live long enough, there will be plenty of defeats. Remember the victories you won. Pick yourself up. You have to go forward. And as you do, think of me, a skinny, scared 16-year-old, inspired by Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, taking a chance by walking into a classroom of white kids for the first time. Don't doubt, don't delay, don't despair. Remember your past. Shape your future. We may not all be remembered by history like Dr. King and President Kennedy, but we can do something more important. Today, generation after generation, each one passing the torch to those who come after, we can change history. Thank you very much.